I titled this service Sailor, Angel, Star because I realized I wanted to say a little something about each of them, but after I started working on it, I realized I had the order wrong. So instead of talking about a sailor and then an angel, then a star, I'm going to do reverse order and do star, angel, and sailor. That's okay? Right? All right? All right. Now, as you know from the Christmas reading we did with the kids, it was a star in the east that led the Magi to visit the Christ child. The Persian religion taught that whenever a savior was, or any important person was born, a star would appear in the sky, especially a big star. The bigger the star, the more important the person. Stars have been important in many religions' birth stories. Muhammad was born just before the rise of the morning star. Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, was conceived as a virgin birth when his mother saw a shooting star. Zoroaster and Abraham's birth were also foretold by stars. And when the Buddha was born, a wise old man named Asita saw a new great diamond star glittering in the sky in many colors. And he set out on foot to discover its meaning and came to where the Buddha was born, telling Buddha's parents, "No human being will be equal to him, and his name will be praised, his actions remembered, and his teachings followed till the end of time." So you see, stars are important in almost all religions around the world. And you might get from this that, well, I guess there probably wasn't a special star the night Jesus was born, because every religion has stories like this. It's just mythology. And you would be right, I suppose, technically, but that would be missing the deeper truth. Star stories are there to tell us that each child that's born has the potential to be a kind of savior to the world. And that actually includes you. So why not a star, as our earlier reading said? Some bright star shines somewhere in the heavens each time a child is born. Who knows what it may foretell? Who knows what uncommon life may yet again unfold if we but give it a chance? When we leave church tonight after the service, I invite you to look up at the night sky and see whether there's a star up there that can represent you. Find your star, kind of touch it, so to speak, and then take it into your heart and let it be a reminder of what the Magi were looking for, the Magi, the magic that's in you. So that's my message on stars, very short. The next one is on angels, and to help me here, I want to read something from something I came across recently. This is a list of things children said when they were asked what they knew about angels. Their answers are pretty interesting. Here are a few in ascending order of age. From Gregory, age 5, "I only know the names of two angels, Hark and Herald." Pretty good, huh? From Scooter, age 6, "Angels don't eat, but they drink milk from holy cows." I'll bet Scooter had a big brother who told him that, and he fell for it. Daniel, age 7, "Angels talk all the way while they're flying you up to heaven. The basic message is where you went wrong before you got dead." Jared, age 8, "Angels live in cloud houses made by God and his son, who is a very good carpenter." Matthew, age 9, "It's not easy to become an angel. First, you'd have to die. Then you go to heaven. Then there's still the flight training to go through. And then you got to agree to wear those angel clothes." And finally, from Antonia, also age 9, "All angels are girls because they got to wear dresses and boys didn't go for it." When I was a child, I was taught that I had my very own guardian angel. I was even taught a song that I could sing to my angel. Would you like to hear it? All right. "Dear angel ever at my side, How loving must thou be to leave thy home in heaven to guide a little child like me. Oh, when I pray, thou prayest too. Thy prayer is all for me. But when I sleep, thou sleepest not, but watchest patiently. Oh, dear. No, that's all. I really like that song. And one of my favorite catechism pictures was of an angel watching over a little boy and girl as they walked in hand over a rickety bridge over a rushing river below. I love that picture. It was a nice thought to believe that an invisible friend was there to keep an eye on me. On the other hand, though, when you wanted to do something really bad, you might not want your guardian angel around. But then I never did anything bad. One of the things the nuns were famous for telling us was, now don't forget, each of you has your own guardian angel who's standing right next to you right now. And then they say, now don't be selfish, move over in your seat so your angel can sit down. And all of us would quickly move over so we could make room for our angel. And the nun would laugh and say, don't be silly, children, your angel's a spiritual being and doesn't need to sit down. I swear those nuns were all in on this, because I heard almost everyone I know who was raised Catholic had the same thing happen. At any rate, as a child, I had no idea that there were angels outside of my religion. I just knew about our angels, and I really had no idea how universal they were. I didn't know that in the Jewish tradition, angels were there to protect Abraham when he was a baby and an evil king was trying to kill him. Or that in the Confucian tradition, when Mencius was born, an angel appeared to his mother, just as an angel appeared to Mary when she conceived Jesus. Or that when Buddha was born, 4 angels came down from the heavens with a golden net to receive him and place him gently on the ground. And Muhammad's mother was told by an angel that she would give birth to a prophet of God. So now I know that angels have been around for a long time, announcing the births of saviors all over the world. And of course, they're in countless children's minds, albeit sometimes in distorted forms. There was a cartoon in the paper once that showed a minister preaching from the pulpit saying, remember, each and every one of us has our own personal guardian angel who watches you wherever you go. And the next frame shows 2 children walking home from church, and one says, do you believe that? The other one says, sure. Who do you think makes those supermarket doors swing open? Now, you may be wondering to yourself, just what is an angel? Well, the word angel comes from the Greek angelos, which just meant messenger, any kind of messenger. But in the Bible, it was generally used to mean a messenger of God. And I still think that's a pretty good definition. Now, if the word God doesn't work for you, think of an angel as a messenger of the holy, a messenger of all that is good, all that is beautiful. And I'll tell you, an angel doesn't have to be an invisible being or have wings and a halo. An angel is anyone who brings a message of the divine. And there could be one in this room right now. In fact, there are probably a lot of them. The trouble is, they can look so ordinary, we don't always recognize them until after they're gone. There was a family of 5 who went to the beach to play in the water and make castles in the sand. And they saw an old woman in the distance who was muttering to herself as she bent over and picked up things from the beach. She looked dirty. She had ragged clothes on and unkempt hair. And she appeared so strange, bending down to put things in an old bag she carried, that the parents told the children to stay by their side and keep away from this old woman. As she got closer to the family, she smiled at them, but they didn't smile back, so she kept going down the beach, her scraggling gray hair blowing in the breeze. It wasn't until a couple months later the parents found out that this old woman had made it her lifelong crusade to pick up bits of glass from the beach so that children wouldn't cut their feet. They had met an angel, and they never knew it until it was too late to say thanks. The author of the New Testament book of Hebrews says, let brotherly, and we would say sisterly love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for some have thereby entertained angels unawares. And in that spirit, I'd like to read you a letter that was printed in the Saturday Evening Post a number of years ago from a father who had traveled with his family to Europe. This is probably from about 40 or 50 years ago. He writes, "Last year at Christmas time, my wife, my 3 boys, and I were in France on our way from Paris to Nice. For 5 wretched days, everything had gone wrong. Our hotels were tourist traps. Our rented car broke down. We were all restless and irritable in the crowded car. On Christmas Eve, when we checked into a dingy hotel in Nice, there was no Christmas spirit in our hearts. It was raining and cold when we went out to eat. We found a drab little joint shoddily decorated for the holiday. It smelled greasy. Only 5 tables in the restaurant were occupied. There were 2 German couples, 2 French families, and an American sailor by himself. In the corner, a piano player listlessly played Christmas music. I was too stubborn and too tired and miserable to leave. I looked around and noticed that the other customers were eating in stony silence. The only person who seemed happy was the American sailor. While eating, he was writing a letter, and a half smile lit his face. My wife ordered our meal in French. The waiter brought us the wrong thing. I scolded my wife for being stupid. She began to cry. The boys defended her, and I felt even worse. Then, at the table with the French family on our left, the father slapped one of his children for some minor infraction, and the boy began to cry. On our right, a German wife began berating her husband. Then all of us were interrupted by an unpleasant blast of cold air. Through the front door came an old French flower woman. She wore a dripping, tattered overcoat and shuffled in on wet, run-down shoes. Carrying her basket of flowers, she went from one table to the other. "Flowers, monsieur? Only a franc." "1 franc. Flowers, monsieur?" No one bought any. Wearily, she sat down at a table between the sailor and us, and to the waiter she said, "Just a bowl of soup. I haven't sold a flower all afternoon." And to the piano player she said hoarsely, "Can you imagine, Joseph, soup on Christmas Eve?" He pointed to his empty tipping plate. The young sailor finished his meal and got up to leave. Putting on his coat, he walked over to the flower woman's table. "Happy Christmas," he said, smiling and picking out 2 corsages. "How much are they?" 2 francs, monsieur." Pressing one of the small corsages flat, he put it into the letter he had written, and then he handed the woman a 20-franc note. "I don't have change, monsieur," she said. "I'll get some from the waiter." "No, ma'am," said the sailor. He leaned over and kissed her ancient cheek and said, "This is my Christmas present to you." Straightening up, he came to our table, holding the other corsage in front of him. "Sir," he said to me, as he looked then at my wife, "may I have permission to present these flowers to your beautiful daughter?" In one quick motion, he gave my wife the corsage, wished us a Merry Christmas, and departed. Everyone had stopped eating. Everyone had been watching the sailor. Everyone was silent. A few seconds later, Christmas exploded throughout the restaurant like a bomb. The old flower woman jumped up, waving the 20-franc note. Hobbling to the middle of the floor, she did a merry jig and shouted to the piano player, "Joseph, my Christmas present, and you shall have half so you can have a feast too." The piano player began to belt out Good King Wenceslas, beating the keys with magic hands, nodding his head in rhythm. My wife waved her corsage in time to the music. She was radiant and appeared 20 years younger, just like the daughter the sailor had thought she was. The tears had left her eyes, and the corners of her mouth turned up in laughter. She began to sing, and our 3 sons joined her, bellowing the song with uninhibited enthusiasm. "Gut, gut," shouted the Germans. They jumped on their chairs and began singing the words in German. The waiter embraced the flower woman. Waving their hands, they sang in French. The Frenchman who had slapped the boy beat his rhythm with a fork against the bottle, and the lad had climbed on his lap, singing in a youthful soprano. The Germans ordered wine for everyone. They delivered it themselves, hugging the other customers and bawling out Christmas greetings. One of the French families called for champagne and made the rounds, kissing each of us on both cheeks. The owner of the restaurant started the first Noel, and we all joined in, half of us crying. People crowded in from the street until many customers were standing. The walls shook as hands and feet kept time to the Yuletide carols. A few hours earlier, 18 persons had been spending a miserable evening in a shoddy restaurant. It ended up being the happiest, the very best Christmas Eve that we had ever experienced. The author of this letter never did get to thank the sailor. The sailor left the restaurant before anyone really knew what had happened. But that didn't matter. None of us ever thank even half the people who've touched our lives. So what do? You thank someone else. It's like Secret Santa, if you've ever played that. You get assigned someone to do good deeds for or give little gifts to. They don't find out who their Secret Santa is until the end of the week. And you don't know who yours is until then either. Well, life is basically a Secret Santa game. Only in real life, you never do find out who some of your Secret Santas are. Or you may find out, but by the time you do, you don't have a chance to thank them. So what can you do? You play Secret Santa for someone else. All of life is giving and receiving gifts, not just at Christmas, but throughout the year. And your gifts are not just toys and things like Harry Potter wizard wands or Hogwarts Great Hall building kits. They're more than laser tag gaming sets or wearable pom-pom pets. I did research on this. They are more than iPads, iPods, or iRobots. They are the things you do, the things you say, the hand you put on someone's shoulder, the compliment you give to a stranger, the hug you give to a friend, the kiss goodbye to someone you love, the toys or food or money you give to those who are less fortunate than you, the apology you make when you're wrong, the soft answer to a hard question, the quarrel you end, the smile you offer, the promise you keep, the listening you do, the laughter you share, and all the little I loves yous and I'm sorries that you sprinkle throughout your day. These are our finest gifts, and not just at Christmas. Let me close with this. I read an interesting story some years ago about an island in the South Pacific. You may have known that during World War II, many cult religions developed in places where American soldiers had been. Well, during World War II, armed forces were stationed on islands throughout the South Pacific. And on one such island, the Americans, while they were there, invited the people of the island to celebrate Christmas with them, and they taught them the carols, and they exchanged gifts, etc. After the war, the island was no longer needed for an airstrip, so the Americans left. But 12 years later, the chaplain who'd been with the armed forces decided to take a trip to the Philippines and stop over on this particular island, sort of as a nostalgia trip. While he was there, he happened to run into a woman he had known those 12 years before. They visited for a while, and then the woman said she had to leave because church was starting, and she invited the chaplain to come with her. Well, he was flabbergasted that they had any kind of church out there. I mean, after all, the Americans had left with their religion a dozen years before. When he got there, He found the people gathered to read the old nativity story and sing the old Christmas carols and exchange presents. They did this every week. You see, they didn't realize that Christmas was only a part of the Christian religion. They thought it was the whole thing. Maybe it's too bad we don't.